Hey, give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Oh, chimney, chimney. Today my rise like the sunrise, my bright and my upright. No one can block my vibes. Hey, give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Oh, chimney, chimney. Today my rise like the sunrise, my bright and my upright.
Strong and healthy, strong and healthy.
Yeah.
I have here Michael Roselman. Michael.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you. And my other neighbor from Point Michelle, Gas John Baptist.
Neighbors.
Okay, good. Strong and healthy. We have a word for today, and that is from 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verses 8 and 9. You've heard it before, but those words are so powerful, so relevant, almost controversial.
True.
It says we are experiencing all kinds of troubles, but we are not crushed. We are confused, but not depressed. We are harassed, but we are not abandoned. We are knocked down, but not knocked out. From the word, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. You read it for yourself. I was born in Newtown. I grew up in Portersville. I lived on Elliott Avenue, Pifto Street, Goodwill Road. Then I moved to Boyd's Avenue in Roseau and spent my teenage years and young adult life in Didier Lane in Goodwill. We've known lots of great friends and neighbors. But among the very best neighbors that we have are these two gentlemen here. Why? Because of Maria. Now, we want to bury Maria in 2017, but I would like for them to share their experiences and how we were bonded together. I will just say that we're going to talk today about post-traumatic stress disorder and have we had stress in Dominica. We are going to also talk to a visitor who came and contributed his time and his treasure to help us recover. His name is George Markert, and you'll be hearing from Mr. Markert in a little bit. So Gav, what do you remember about Maria? That's a question I have for you in a little bit. But what is post-traumatic stress? You know, the term kind of coined during World War I, when you had a tremendous number of casualties, people who were gassed, people had arms and legs blown off, shrapnel in their bodies and so forth, obvious physical injuries. But I noticed that there were people who had no obvious injuries, but they were like in a daze, they were shell-shocked was the term that was used at that time. By World War II and by the Vietnam War later on, the term post-traumatic stress disorder was recognized as a clinical entity, meaning that although someone was not physically injured, they could have very serious health problems as a result of the experiences that they went to. And in Dominica, we all went through a very traumatic experience, from the Prime Minister down to the paro in the street. When I heard that the Prime Minister's roof was gone, I said, "Oui, bon Dieu, nous finibas," because I imagined his roof is a little stronger than the rest of ours. And so we have to understand that as a people, collectively, we have experienced this awful stress. There's been reports of sudden deaths, a spike in sudden deaths. The statistics may not come for another year or so, but in talking with other doctors, they're reporting yes. And my good friend Emmeline Anselm of MO News Online described she was driving from the Kalinago territory through Concord, Marigot, Wesley Calabishi, and 4 times she saw women running out of the street, bawling, somebody died all of a sudden. So what can we do to diagnose and to treat post-traumatic stress disorder? That is the reason that we're here today. Yeah.
Well, Doctor, for stress, that didn't easy battle. The battle was hard for everybody. For you, for me, for the whole world. It's first time I experienced a piece of wind like that. That had wolf everything in it, roaring. My windows have been burst, everything have been spoiled. Next time in the between the real motion of the wind, I hear someone screaming, help, help, help. I didn't really to go outside to help him. But when I see my girlfriend, my children, they're all wet up, house burst, I say, boy, you see that kind of thing? I have to go out in the time to see what's happening. Anyway, I burst the door. And from the time I burst the door, I couldn't see there to there. But anyway, I take my stress and I go down to see what I get lower down my home. By the time I passing down to reach the guy home below me, I hear the screaming in the darkness. I end up under my cellar. From the time I end under my cellar, I start screaming, saying, where are you, how I can find you, because it's so dark to me. Anyway, he had a red shirt. I see the red shirt. From the time I see the red shirt, I go, I grab the hand. Then I come, he tell me, boy, help me, boy, help me. So I tell him, my brother, all of us is bad time that come in. Wake up first to come make a move first to come move ourselves there. He tell me, he can't walk. I just grab him like a little baby. I bring him inside under all the darkness. I held him down. I went back outside. Still hold the other one hand. Bring it to my home.
And who's that, by the way, you're talking about?
Well, it's Libero and Danny. Libero and Danny. Anyway, from the time I get Danny, come to the home, first thing he tell me, all his family go. I tell him, my brother, it's not an easy world. Chill out. Because nothing we could do in the house than just be covering. I had a little baby just born too. All of us, anyway, in the house. We survive in the house. When daybreak, from the time doctor I end up and I see outside here, I go back inside and I tell them, well, Dominica finish, obstacle in Dominica. Doctor, I see a kind of view up in the mountain. Things I never see. And now I just see the place open out. Wood, ravine, and all of us had stress there. Anyway, when things die down, all of us come up together. Roof gone, doctor. Nothing to do. We're just watching one another. It's clean up.
On that point, I know I always start the program by taking the blood pressure. Here's our blood pressure.
Yeah.
Where is it? Okay, let me take your blood pressure because I want to finish what happened after that event.
Yeah.
So, I'm taking the blood pressure for an individual who wants to donate a kidney to a family friend in Miami, and I have to take the blood pressure morning and night. And what I've found is that after every day, work day, the blood pressure is 20 points higher after the every day. So that is very interesting to me. I didn't realize that it was that significant, and there has been an increase in blood pressure among Dominicans because of the stress that we've gone through. A lot of people would say, for example, oh, my blood pressure has always been normal, but we're seeing a bit of a different story here. Okay, so let me just get this secured in here. Voila. Okay, and I'll pump up the volume. Pump, 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 pump. And your blood pressure is pretty good, about 120/80. Good. And I'm going to change over here to Michael. Michael, put your hand in here. Mettez la main en ça. Okay. And rest your hand on your lap here. And put this over here.
After Maria, all of us come together. And we decide, well, we're going and clean up.
Hold on 1 second while I check Michael's pressure. So, Michael, your blood pressure is slightly up, 140 over 90.
Oh, that could be part of stress.
Oh, that could be part of stress. That's
Or
exactly what
Maria,
you're saying.
Maria does.
And the reason why I love this gentleman, wherever they saw me, we had to be carrying water, a little under a quarter mile up and down the steep ravine.
Exactly.
Sibuli Valley. Ravine. And, they would have mercy on me and say, Doc, let me help you with that.
We help all of us help one another. Yeah.
So, I'm thinking I'm really strong, trying to keep up with the young men. I had 2 jerry cans, and I'm almost going on the trot, running down the ravine and up again. And my back, when I was almost couldn't walk for 2 weeks.
Because you do so much work to help under the time.
But these guys, they're grassroots guys. They're hardworking guys, and they really help the doctor. So
one thing I can tell you, Doc, you really help people after that real time, and people really come together with you from now. You have more friendly people coming and see you, coming and visit you. You understand? Because of that type of work you do after Maria, taking your own medicine, own medication, and walking around the village. Even take boat too. Even take boat too. So that was nice of you.
Well, we do the best that we can.
That was nice of you.
There's a hymn that says, when duty calls or danger, we're never lacking there. And it's funny because when Hurricane David struck, I was the only one of my family overseas, and everybody was at home. And now that Maria struck, I was the only one at home in Dominica, and the rest of the family were overseas. So I know how it felt. And I felt very, very, I couldn't help myself during the days of David because I saw my people suffering, and I always felt for all those years that, I was not part of that experience. And so, God answered my prayer and put me in a place where I could really help and make a difference. I will never forget the time when the weatherman from the Atlanta station was flying over in a U.S. Air Force plane over the southern part of Dominica. He said, I'm flying over an area called Grand Bay. I can remember the words exactly. He said, as you can see, the mountains are totally denuded and all the trees are broken down. And as far as the houses are concerned, there are no standing structures, and there is no sign of life. And the feeling that I had, I said I fasted for 3 days, but it's more like I could not eat. And I know all our friends and family overseas experienced that in an even greater way with Maria, knowing that their loved ones were in the bullseye, direct hit of Category 5 plus Maria.
It was category more than 5.
It certainly was.
But
you had Libero in your house.
Yeah,
you could
exactly.
see that his thigh bone was broken in a complicated way. And you did your best. You took care of him. You fed him. You gave him to drink.
Yeah, I have been a whole week at my home.
And I came over. We put a splint on and gave him injections of pain medicine. And I could hear him groaning in the night. And, we were totally cut off in Point Michelle. We could see the helicopters flying overhead.
And we couldn't get nothing.
We couldn't get any help.
But we make our way anyway. And we bring him on a boat. You also went on the boat. Bring him to the hospital. Do your best.
Michael, tell me what happened in that ravine. Again, it's a dry ravine, as we would see. But you explained it in a way that makes sense to me, the way the river suddenly rose up. What you experienced that night?
This experience was a very sad experience. But hopefully we still have to see what happening so then people can understand what it is about. For the past few times that the hurricane had taken over, I was home at the time with the wife, with Marilyn, Sharon, and Ifan, and we were just there having a little good time in the shop, selling some bread. And so at the same time we had our little radio where we could listen to the news, what happening. So then we hear, then they was talking about that we're going to have a hurricane and whatever and whatnot. So we was in the shop downstairs having selling some bread still at the meantime. Got people coming and buy the bread, so we have to. And by the time we're here, we see the place start to get dark. So suddenly the place start to get dark, and then a little rain start to fall. So then we stay there, we keep on watching what happening. Then thunder start to roll. Then it start to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And then we couldn't take again, so we stay a little inside to see what will happen. It wasn't to say good, but it was very bad.
When the water burst through?
Yeah, at the meantime, I was watching at the windows. I was still looking at the road because I'm living close to the road and the ravine, so I could actually see what happening. So when I was watching outside, I see a dark kind of clouds, but it was about 3 or 4 foot high. Then when I look, I see a dark piece of water is coming. So I couldn't really see what happened, but then the water was coming so strong that after a while I had to put my head in. Then the wife started to tell me, oh, I hear the vehicles is going down. So I tell her, what vehicles? She tell me, well, yeah, can you hear the vehicles going down? The water is very high. So at the same time, when I come and I peep, I saw all the water is going down very high. It was about 3 to 4 inches high, which I had to close the window, and then I had to open the trap door, which I have on the other side, to get them out. Because what happened, the water was coming in at the meantime in the shop.
And it took your vehicle and
yeah,
pitched it over by the neighbor's
right down
side.
by the neighbor's side, which I'm modeling.
At that time, we had no idea the number of people who had been lost.
No.
But we subsequently found out that there were 5 or 4 people in the house trapped there for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
We were trying to get help to
and
extricate
hearing them
them.
screaming.
Yes.
Where we couldn't get to them. But only thing we had to do is pray for the Lord to make things get better. You know?
And the thing I want to say is this, you know, the eye of the storm didn't pass over Point Michel because we didn't experience any break. But people, I think, from Roseau up to Salisbury or wherever, describe, you know, the storm stopping and everything being completely still. At least they had a break, you know. And everywhere in Dominica, there are a few places like Salisbury or St. Joseph, maybe because of the peculiarities of the geography, which seem to get less damage. But everywhere in Dominica experienced a category 5 plus.
True.
And so what the experiences that we're talking about here are multiplied thousands of times. Talk to anybody and they're giving you stories, if not them, but of a neighbor somewhere in a village or town that experienced catastrophic damage, injury, stress, hardship, deprivation. With Maria, with Erica, I remember in Goodwill, we had light, we had water, we had electricity. Whereas
after that, in a month's time, we come back, Hurricane David and Erica, we had them things. But in that one herself, just mashed down the place.
So, you know, we could talk on and on, but I just wanted to bring this gentleman around. We could get the psychologist and the psychiatrist to tell us about post-traumatic stress syndrome, but I'm going to wrap up about that in a little bit. We're going to take a break and to listen to a gentleman who has come over to Dominica to help us.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
As you can tell, Maria really restored my faith in humanity. Listen, we in Dominica were so fortunate to be assisted by such a wide range of international relief agencies, so many non-governmental, church and charitable organizations. But that's their job, that's what they do. Most striking to me are the individuals like American George Markert, So moved was he by our catastrophe that he made what can be described as a lone wolf mission. He raised his own support, came with bags full, and left practically empty. George Markert and many like him came to be with us in all our hardships and shared the love of God that was simply bursting in his heart. Hello, George. I'm here with George Markert from Williamsburg, Virginia. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Good. And George is a volunteer who came down to Dominica of his own accord, his own time, spent Christmas with us, came in on New Year's Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes, and you're living on New Year's Eve. And it's your birthday as well.
Yes. Well, we had a full week, you know.
Only 39 years old.
Yes, for the 25th time or something like that.
Okay, good. Well, here in Point Michel, and we're going to take a picture here at the Valley of Death, Cibolo Valley, here in Point Michel, where I live. And as you can see, this is a stream with no water. Under normal circumstances, there's absolutely no water, and during Hurricane Maria it became a mighty rushing torrent that swept away houses. So right over in this area here is the house where 10 members of one family were swept away. Only one was found, 14-year-old St. Mary's Academy student that I had to pronounce dead, and right next to the tree was where another gentleman was lost. I had to pronounce him dead. And up on this other way was where a house collapsed, and 4 or 5 people were encased in there for about 5 weeks before their remains were extricated. So George came to help us. So if you were to come over this way again and let George tell his story. Okay,
Well,
George,
yes.
what made you come to Dominica?
So when I saw the tragedy of both Irma and Hurricane Maria, I thought, which island nation did not have covering from a larger country like the U.S., Britain, Holland, etc. And I really landed on Dominica. And Dominica's tragedy was shown actually in a video on CNN from the perspective of Point Michel. And I saw the huge logs denuded of all their bark, and people essentially walking around in shock. And I thought, could I help? So that's the reason I chose Dominica.
And you somehow got in touch with Gabriel Christian and Rebuild Dominica?
Yes.
And
Yes, so I searched the internet and I wanted to come as an individual aid worker. If some people wanted to come along with, I was more than happy. But as it turned out, I was alone and did meet Gabriel and also talk with him about the tragedy that was occurring here, and said I wanted to dedicate this week that I get off from work because we have plant shutdown free of charge. So it's an opportunity for me to do some relief work. Yeah.
And so you arrived here on Christmas Eve, and what are some of the things were you able to do? I know you were constantly blogging to some of your friends and family.
Right. So I had an opportunity to go from Merigot to around the island on the upper side through Portsmouth and Laou and into Roseau, and really get a sense of, and with my guide, Simeon Joseph, got a sense of exactly what was going on. And seeing many things that were tragic, but yet feeling the spirit of the Dominican people, how uplifted they were for how much had been already done to clear the area of all the logs and get the roads somewhat passable again. So it was a combination of tragedy and positivity.
So before we wrap up with some of the things that you saw and did, tell us a little bit about your background. You're in pharmaceutical sales and medical field.
Right. In the pharmaceutical industry, and have been doing that for the latter part of my career, getting to know a lot of different disease states, so that's what I wanted to come and work with you and see if I could help out in any regard. And because our plant shuts down this week, it's a great opportunity. And but beyond that, it's a spiritual thing, really. It's about really reaching out. We have so much in the United States, and we need to do more outreach to folks in need.
You're constant communication with your family and undergoing some serious winter weather. An
Yes.
Arctic blast, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to have a rude awakening when I land in JFK later today. So yes, they're having very, very severe cold.
So could you share with our viewers a couple of the things that you were able to do, accomplish while you were here in Dominica?
Yes. So I went over on the 26th to the Grotto House and introduced myself and brought some small things to the residents there, and I promised them I would return. And we came back the next day.
I shall return, I think. Which general said that?
MacArthur.
In the Philippines, yeah.
So I said I would. I think they were a little skeptical, but we came back and found ice cream after shopping around a little bit.
Yes, we did.
And brought some fresh vegetables and other things too, and we had a nice ice cream party and just a really joyous occasion. Sang some Christmas songs. On Christmas Day, my sister, my aunt, my sister-in-law, numerous people in my family are nurses. I got a chance to go over to the hospital and distribute some treats there too. Small things, but just to let them know that people care.
And they were greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
I think if we have a video of the spontaneous vote of thanks that was given, very eloquent and articulate, but it really expressed the feelings of the people that we touched. And so you were able to see some people in makeshift office and to do some home visits.
Right, and was amazed at the spirit of the people. No matter if they were in tough shape, if they were sick, but they said things have progressed and that they'll get better and they have hope for the future. And I think that's very, very important. But yes, we were able to see some folks in need, and that was a blessing to me as well.
And I think George said, it doesn't matter, I'm not high maintenance. If I have a sheet, I'll sleep on the floor. I
Right.
said, George, we guarantee we won't let you sleep on the floor in Dominica. And so he has roughed it pretty much, not a tourist adventure for him at all. And he has really touched lives, as you will see from the other videotapes. And we are so happy. We are absolutely delighted and very, very honored to have him in our presence. And so, George, you're heading back home.
Yes.
Into a little bit of a cold. Some parting words and thoughts, not only for Dominicans and friends of Dominicans, but the people who have felt. You've had a lot of responses of people who feel part of what you do and would like to support in some way.
Right. In my blog and in my Facebook page, I have put a number of posts that I think are relevant. I'm yet to post about the botanical gardens as an example, which I think needs to be spoken to as well. So I'm looking for the folks in America to help Dominica, help St. Martin, help in our own U.S. Virgin Islands, wherever people are in need. Puerto Rico. Of course, I'm stopping through and stopped through there on the way in. There are a number of things that people can do, very simple things. The library here, for instance, was wiped out. We could have people send books to the library here. That's a simple thing, and most people have a bookshelf of books they can easily send along. So I make a plea to people and also to the Dominicans. Keep up your spirit. We are there to help you. The U.S. has not turned its back. There's mixed signals that you may hear, but in fact the spirit of our people also will come together with the spirit of your people. So stay positive, please. Don't.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Godspeed, and God bless you in all you do. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you, and really try to live up to the high regard and the expectations that you have for the Dominican people.
Well, thank you.
As a result of natural disasters or personal difficulties is a very real thing. One of the misconceptions that I hear most commonly is that people would say, oh, my blood pressure has always been normal. Well, your blood pressure is always normal as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, But somewhere along the line in the 30s and 40s and 50s, things happen. So we want to know what the family history is. Your nurse and your doctor will ask you about your family history. And if you have a family history, your parents, most likely, who have had high blood pressure or diabetes, you want to be very careful about that. So after the stress that all of us have experienced with Hurricane Maria, we want to reassess our blood pressure. And I have checked my blood pressure, and you know what? My blood pressure, I used to say, was always perfect. And now it's kind of really borderline. And there are times during this ordeal of recovery that I've felt headaches and I've felt kind of weary. And when I checked my blood pressure, it was just a little high. And I've actually taken blood pressure medication for the first time in my life. So this is what I want you to do, to understand that your blood pressure may have been affected as a result of the storm. That post-traumatic stress means that even though you did not suffer physical injury, even though your roof was on, and even though you have a generator, and even though you didn't have to carry water very far, we still, as a nation, as a people, have suffered tremendous stress. And therefore, it is very important for us to do this. Okay, make it a point of duty to measure your blood pressure. And the blood pressure that we take here, or in a doctor's office, is not always truly reflective of what the person's usual blood pressure is. There's something called the white coat syndrome, where the blood pressure taken at the doctor's office is sometimes a little bit higher. So you always want to make a note of what it is by the nurse. There are nurses out there in the community and the health centers who can take their blood pressure. They are the experts on taking blood pressure because they do this all day. And I trust their blood pressures because it reflects perhaps a more accurate measure of what your blood pressure is. So measure your blood pressure. Write it down. If you have a smartphone, there's a little note app in there. You can put it, the date, and whatever the blood pressure is. Don't take, if you are an intelligent, literate person, don't take as satisfactory the nurse said it was okay or the doctor said it was okay. Make sure you understand the numbers. And actually, the number for blood pressure has been revised downwards. Whereas we used to say that high blood pressure was anything over 140/90, nowadays, as of 2017, high blood pressure is anything over 130/85. Okay, so make a note of that, check your high blood pressure, and finally I will say the hemoglobin A1C. I was hoping to have it written down so you could see it. A, the first letter of the alphabet, 1, the first number, and C. A1C, this is a measure of your blood sugar, and it tells us how close you are to becoming diabetic. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. We talked today mostly about stress and about blood pressure. We give thanks and praise to all those people, Dominicans at home and abroad, and friends of Dominica who assisted us in our recovery. And this new year, 2018, is a time for you and I to do what is necessary to rebuild this country stronger, to rebuild this country better, and we're going to do it by God's grace. As it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 9, we were knocked down, but we were not knocked out. And so we are coming back strong and healthy. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Look forward to seeing you next week on Strong and Healthy. Thank you.
Hey,
Okay.
give thanks for life. Give thanks for life. Oh, chimney, chimney. Today my rise like the sunrise, my bright and my upright. No one can break my vibes.